Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to your favorite show here on the YouTubes. Welcome back to Dead Malls. As we continue day 4 here, we head just up the road to the Great Lake state itself of Michigan, to the small town of Benton Harbor. Located right along I-94 and smushed up against Lake Michigan, Benton Harbor is a tiny, dying town, and within lies one of my favorite malls I have ever visited. The Orchards Mall is a mall that a lot of people may know. When you look it up on YouTube, you might see World's Filthiest Mall or such titles. And yeah, I mean, while that's true, what I see in this aging place was a beautiful time capsule. A forgotten husk of memories and a literal grave for a mall that has no hope of ever being the place it once was ever again. Scattered throughout are photographs taken throughout the years, and some of them just bring tears to your eyes. Before we get started, I'd like to congratulate the winner who was able to successfully guess the next mall. Very nice job, Northwest Indiana Elevators. If you'd like to shoot your shot at being the next shout out, stick around to the end for the next challenge. Anyways, let's head around that poop-covered exterior and then head in and tell the story of the Orchards and where it's going for this nearly abandoned mall. From the second you enter this mall, you know what it's all gonna be about. Just see how many sad mom and pop store efforts you can find. This mall is so depressing in its beautiful retro 90s aesthetic, which has literally been covered in bird poop and garbage. The Orchards feels like a fever dream. The endless empty halls, buzzing lights, and seagull calls make you feel like you're at a beach, as if this place should be a paradise, as if around any of those halls you'll find where everyone's been, a safe haven, and while it once was, those days are long gone. The Orchards Mall story begins hundreds of years ago in the small town of Benton Harbor, Michigan. Long before the mall, the site was largely rural and untouched. Benton Harbor was experiencing a massive population spike. The small town, slowly turning small city, was built on its prosperous shores of Lake Michigan as a fruit port. In its early days, apple orchards dominated the landscapes, and soon the town became a tourist destination, with its lush forests and beautiful beaches lending a helping hand to its growth. As the years went on, your typical manufacturing and industry jobs moved in, and the quickly growing city would seemingly peak in 1950. As the years went on, things would change. Industries left, and so did the people. The city slowly lost population, and by the late 60s was in a slow downward decline. Luckily though, Benton Harbor had one last trick up its sleeve to keep people in town. One thing I absolutely loved about this mall was just how quiet it was. I was the only one in here, and there was no music, no distant chatter at all, literally just the buzzing lights and seagulls, which you'll hear more later. They come and go in force. It was almost like I had the mall to myself. It was a very surreal feeling. You'll see the food court coming up here, which is honestly just one of the saddest parts of the mall, especially when you compare it to old pictures. And usually I stick in before and afters, but in this video you'll see all of the mall's older photos at once, and you can make your own conclusions on how beautiful this place once was. Commercial sprawl soon spread out across the southern side of the city. The vital arteries of Pipestone Road and Highway 139 connected the town to the still relatively fresh Interstate 94. Businesses and a big box would pop up all along these roads, and as the 70s began, a new development would really reel in everyone's attention. The Meyer C. Weiner Company would first propose the mall in 1974, which would be labeled Pipestone Mall. These plans would seemingly be left on the table for a few years until 1976, when it was rumored a Hudson's department store would anchor this proposed mall. Soon, Westcor, another mall development firm, would take the reins and begin preliminary plans. By 1977, Sears and JCPenney had signed on as anchors for the new mall, with negotiations to get Carson Pierce Scott as a third. Westcor would hire the legendary Edward J. DeBartolo Development Company to construct the new mall, and by 1978, beams would already be raising from the ground, and the new mall would be seen from all over the area as a landmark up on its hill, with the residents anticipating their new shopping destination. The Orchards Mall would open in October of 1979 as a true and formulaic American mall experience. Located on the site of a former apple orchard, the mall was built up on a hill overlooking Pipestone Road and not too far from 139. Long before Walmart, Lowe's, Meijer, and Home Depot and others were all built, the mall was really the only thing around. Freshly paved roads weaved around the future retail and up to the orchards, giving it a grandish feel. Opening with Sears and JCPenney as anchors and a Walgreens Jr. anchor, along with 70 inline spaces, the orchards featured beautiful trees, skylights, and playing areas. It also had something most malls were just beginning to experiment with, being a 10-bay food court. The mall was instantly a success, and for years it would bring people to its beautiful halls to shop at its nearly hundreds of stores to offer. Some of those being Gap, County Seat, Baker Shoes, Fox Jewelers, Glamour Shots, Hallmark, Chess King, Kinney Shoes, Foot Locker, Spencer's, Record Town, Camelot Music, Phi, KB Toys, Gorin's Jewelers, Sherman's Ice Cream, Regis, Richmond's, Gem Dandies, Casual Corner, Shoe Sensation, Tom McCann Shoes, Radio Shack, The Great Steak and Potato Company, Subway, Walden Books, The Buckle, Claire's, and many more. Oh boy, that was a lot. From the opening, the mall would triumph into the 80s, with many locals recalling its halls as a neon paradise, full of color and life. However, as the years went on, demographics changed and the crime in Benton Harbor started to seep into the mall. As the 90s began, big things were coming. However, bigger problems were on the horizon. This wing right here used to lead down to JCPenney. However, sadly, it was very haphazardly walled off. This whole mall is literally falling apart. I mean, the floor speaks for itself. But these attempts at keeping people out, it's kind of like a horror movie when the characters pile furniture up on a door. That's kind of how this feels. Of course, I'm the killer, just breaking it down and getting it anyways. Sadly though, the old JCPenney was 100% impassable, so I'll just show some pics later of it. By the early 90s, mall tenants were changing hands frequently, with some closing altogether. At some point in the early 90s, Walgreens would leave for a freestanding location. The loss of Walgreens would hamper growth in the JCPenney wing, and the space wouldn't be filled for years. By the fall of 1992, the mall had undergone a complete makeover. New benches, palm trees, ceilings, tile flooring, and the removal of the sunken area in front of JCPenney brought the mall to how it looks today. A suave 90s paradise that seemingly threw out the mall's classic old town look for an, at the time, very modern look. The biggest addition of this renovation, however, would be the brand new third anchor, Elder Bierman, a super upscale destination for Benton Harbor's richest to browse and shop. The mall in the early 90s would exceed quotas, and for a time stores would come back and the mall would flourish once more. However, things would start to spoil once again. at one point during my visit, it was when I was really just getting all these food court shots because, seriously, you can't get enough of those tiles complemented by the holiday stars, which are surprisingly still on. I was passed by a woman. Oh my gosh, was the prophecy fulfilled? Did the orchards have a customer? No, just a mall walker. The only tenant that was open in the whole mall was a Joanne Fabrics, which is now closed and only had an exterior entrance. The other store, a mattress shop, was appointment only, so, you know. One thing I love about some of these old storefronts is that if you look inside of them, you see you see the chairs, and it's like they're hiding in the back. Like all these chairs are in these old storefronts and they're gated off in the dark. And these chairs are from around the mall, from in the food court and whatnot. And it's like they're hiding. I don't know what they're hiding from though. It's like there's a monster inside of the mall or something, and all these chairs are just hiding from that monster. By the late 90s, crime was becoming a growing issue once again. Robberies around the mall, including a gunpoint robbery at a nearby Aldi, would force tenants to leave in fear. Shoplifting was a growing issue, and in 1995, a Red Lobster manager would be killed just outside the mall. There would be a sharp decline in foot traffic as people opted to drive the extra distance to neighboring malls or other local big box. In 1999, Westcor, seeing the mall as more of a liability, would sell it to Illinois-based General Growth Properties. As the 2000s began, the mall was sitting at an alarming 50% occupancy, with most national retailers gone. The mall would seemingly start to stagnate for several years until the late 2000s when a Joanne Fabric opened in the old Walgreens, which had been sitting abandoned for nearly 20 years. The mall, with all of its major spaces filled, would have the reins for a few months until yet another blow was struck to it, when, in 2009, SEARS would close permanently. Oddly enough, the mall owners had no control over the old SEARS anchor, and soon it would be donated to a local church. The owners fought this, trying to get it back, however, would be unsuccessful. The owners, Overflow Church, didn't even use the space, instead backing out and letting it sit abandoned. SEARS did still have a presence in the mall, however, at the time, with an optical store and a small driving school, strangely. Around the 2010s, things would get depressing around the dying mall. Some of the few national retailers, The Buckle and B. Dalton, closed in 2010. All of the old palm trees and plants around this time would also be cut and taken away, giving the halls a sad, aging, and bland look. In 2011, Elder Beerman would change formats, becoming Carson's, and as the 2010s went on, everything seemed to just slow down, or you could even say stop altogether. The mall lost its last big-name brands, Zales, GNC, Bath & Body Works, and Payless, and instead was dotted with small pop-up shops, churches, and organizations. A far cry from the beautiful neon wonderland it once was. The food court in particular would have many of its spaces walled off, with just one tenant remaining as a small Mexican place. In 2014, the mall would be purchased by the slumlords everyone loves to hate, Kohan, now in the Grim Reaper's grip. I really wish that when I was here, I would have gotten some sort of memorabilia. Although I'm not sure what I could have gotten. I mean, I probably could have taken some tile from the broken floor, but my mind must have blanked at the time. Ever since I started filming for Season 5 and up into 6, I've gotten one piece of memorabilia from every mall I've ever been to, in hopes that one day my YouTube adventures will hopefully pay off and I can open a mall museum so people like me and you can reminisce in history and memories. That also includes a complete recreation of the White Flint Food Court, of course, which my hardcore fans might know of as the Neon Palm Mall Food Court. Even if my museum idea never does get off the ground, I'm still gonna build it in my future house as my man cave. It will be awesome, and I love it so much. Right here, this old walled-off storefront is probably the best part of the orchards. It literally feels like this mall's grave. The memories and the times had by children growing up, people calling it home, elders having a place to be with friends and play cards, and for all of Benton Harbor to just be themselves. I'll go silent now. Enjoy these. In January of 2018, the Bonton announced Carson's closure at the Orchards, and by April of that year, the mall's once luxurious third anchor would close, leaving the Sears and Carson side extremely dead and eerily quiet. Throughout 2018, Kohan would neglect the mall, refusing to pay property taxes or even decent cleanup bills. The desolate parking lots now filled with weeds would be overtaken by seagulls, and soon the entire mall and its many skylights would be swarmed by Lake Michigan seagulls, and poop would cover nearly every surface. In June, water would be shut off as Kohan failed to make those payments, and throughout the rest of the year, the old tile flooring would begin to crack and rip apart as the neglected foundation of the mall would falter. Durga LLC, another mall company we've mentioned briefly here on the channel, would acquire it from Kohan. However, nothing would change. In July of 2019, JCPenney, the mall's last anchor and last draw, would go dark, with the big white letters being stripped from the mirrored entry, leaving the mall completely anchorless. In November of 2021, Joanne, the mall's last true tenant, announced closure and would leave just after my visit in May of 2022, leaving the small mattress shop as the only open store by appointment only. As I drove around the exterior fully to round out this visit, I really wanted to capture the disgusting neglect this mall faces. And in a little bit here, we get maybe just a little bit too personal with the seagulls. This is their mall now, and whatever happens to it, people always look up to that hill, forgetting the mall exists, and see all the birds flying up, and they'll say to themselves, Jesus, why did they decide to build a dump in town? Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this excursion to the Orchards Mall. Truly one of the saddest, most interesting, and filthiest malls I have ever been to. Yes, I'll agree to that. The mall, from what I saw scattered around and from what I've read, is in the earliest stages of redevelopment, which will see the old anchors converted. As for the rest of the mall itself, God knows. But as of now, visit if you can. It's a must-see place, not only if you're a mall fan, but just a fan of exploring. There's so much to see and do, and I hope someday soon I can come back and just chill underneath those Christmas stars in the food court and listen to the gulls, imagining I'm on a sunny beach relaxing. If you're ever in the area, stop by the Orchards and support the local business if you can. If you guys enjoy my Den Mall content, consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future Den Malls episodes. And make sure to head over to Patreon and support me, and I'll send you a monthly Den Mall Polaroid taken and signed by me. Next week, as we head into Illinois, we'll be going just due south of the Chicagoland Metro to a 90s mall that was sisters with Illinois Star Center. be the first one to get it right, and I'll shout you out in the next episode. Anyways, have yourselves a lovely evening. Peace out, guys. See you later.